2024 Pittsburgh Steelers had some highs and they had a lot of lows. But let's break this football team down for the 2024 season and really try to dissect what went wrong, what went right, and how this football team looks moving forward. Welcome back to Mic Drop Sports here on a Friday. I'm your host, Jason, as always. Thank you for diving in with us, my friends. I appreciate it, truly. However, last night I was on a podcast over at Steelers Almighty, and that's what we were talking about, just this topic. And I felt like it was fitting to bounce back off of that a little bit, give my answers a little bit more detail. Nick, Brian were absolutely great, absolute pros. I think they work their ass off, they grind hard, and I truly appreciate them having me over to join them last night, and hopefully we can do that again. There was a lot of great comments in the chat. It seemed like a lot of people enjoyed that trio, and the more you do something, the more comfortable you become with those people. So I think that the content would just get better and better and better. So maybe that's something that we can do into the future. But here again today, we want to dive into what we were talking about last night, a Steelers year in review, basically. Just talking about some of the lowlights, some of the highlights of the 2024 season and how that looks and what that looks like moving into the 2025 season for your Pittsburgh Steelers. And I just want to really touch base on some of the highlights that I thought that happened during the 2024 year. I thought Justin Fields showed tremendous growth. That's just my opinion. I thought he really worked hard. I thought he was able to overcome a lot of the demons that plagued him inside of a Chicago Bears helmet. And I thought he really embraced his role on this football team and acted like a real pro's pro. And I think that has to be encouraging to the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I think to have a plan moving forward to get your next franchise guy, I think having Justin Fields inside of that plan gives you a lot of options, gives you outs, gives you opportunity in order to bridge yourself into that next franchise guy. And by some slim chance, Justin Fields does take off and hit the potential that many people thought during the draft when he was selected. Maybe if he hits that plateau and really starts to be a big-time player at the quarterback position, then you win. So I feel like it's a win-win situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers if you involve Justin Fields in that plan moving forward. Because, again, I don't think you're going to get that quarterback here in 2025, especially out of the draft. But I think if you're the Steelers, you can prepare here now, starting right here at the beginning of 2025, start to really stockpile the resources that are going to be needed to make a real big monster splash move to go up there and get one of them quarterbacks that you might really highly covet in that 2026 draft. I think it's something that they can definitely utilize and start to really plan for now and really be proactive in their approach, because I felt like since the departure and even before the departure of Ben Roethlisberger, I think the Steelers and Mike Tomlin, even Kevin Colbert, Omar Khan, I just don't see the preparation for the future there. And I think that it was something that they really, really didn't bust their ass on trying to get done. I think they tried to work it with Band-Aids, and that doesn't work in today's NFL. Sometimes you can go and make do with just an average guy at the quarterback position and win a lot of ball games and potentially win a Super Bowl. But you got to be a team like the Eagles where you have a good quarterback, not an elite quarterback, but a good quarterback, but you got a generational talent at the running back spot. And I think that is something that you need. And the Steelers don't possess that. The Steelers do not possess that. But some of the highlights that I wanted to point out for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we talked about Justin Fields. I thought that was a highlight. Some of the games that really mattered, definitely the Commanders, the Chargers, those were two big signature wins. I thought the Ravens game was a signature win also early, but this team got themselves to 10-3 and allowed the wheels to fall off. But I think there were instances throughout the season that made put some chinks in the armor of the defense. You know, that Dallas game when everything was riding on them and they were not able to get it done. You know, things of that nature that put some little chinks in their armor that they weren't able to maybe get out of their head, and they remembered throughout the year. And I think that Some of those kinds of things really hurt this football team moving down the stretch as it all accumulated. And once that losing started, I think it really brought the team down in many, many ways, and they weren't able to recover. And I think a lot of that has to do with the coaching. A lot of that has to do with the schematics. Because if you're a player, how do you get excited week in, week out, knowing you're doing the same damn thing and you're not making any changes to be better? You're not making any changes to try to get out of your rut. I think that might have killed that locker room in many ways. I think there were many players inside of that locker room that started to just be about themselves and not about the team, and just really just not giving that full effort each and every play, not being as present as maybe they should be in terms of what they were bringing to the table every day in that building on the south side of Pittsburgh. And again, I have to blame that on Mike Tomlin. I think Mike Tomlin is the issue. And I know a lot of people will say that you don't talk about Mike Tomlin so much. Don't be so personal about Mike Tomlin. I'm not being personal about Mike Tomlin. He's not doing a good job, my friends. And again, you look at even the Eagles across the state. They've had coaches that made it to the Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl, been to many NFC championship games, guys that are going to be in the Hall of Fame. But yet they understand and they recognize that they had to move on in certain situations, certain times. And they were able to capitalize off of those things. And you see them now, they've moved on after several coaches, starting with Andy Reid, a guy that's going to be in the Hall of Fame that's winning mad Super Bowls with the Kansas City Chiefs. But they moved on from him, and here they are with Sirianni, a guy that's playing in his second Super Bowl with an average quarterback in Jalen Hurts. How special is that? And the Steelers want to be those teams. They want to be the Detroit Lions. They want to be the Philadelphia Eagles and run it down your throat and beat people up. And yes, every good team has a great running game, and I agree with that. But what the Steelers miss is balance. Because if you don't have that generational type guy like Saquon Barkley in the backfield, you got to have balance. And that's what you see from the other good teams in the NFL. Yes, they can run the football, but they have balance. They can also throw the football when necessary. They can also hit the big play when necessary. And I felt the Pittsburgh Steelers lacked that. The balance wasn't there. The creativity wasn't there. And that allowed defenses a real opportunity to load up on them. And then that offense was very predictable. And that created a lot of issues. And that hurts, guys, the offensive line. That hurts the run game. That hurts the wide receivers. That hurts the quarterback in a big way, and it all just trickles down. If you're a defender and you're able to really just play bully ball and you understand exactly where each play is going to be going, and you don't really have to have much guesswork in figuring out what that offense is doing, you're able to load up and really just bully the offensive tackles, really shoot the gaps, really just be dominant and load up with players inside of the box, and it really creates havoc. And it makes you wonder, did that really stunt the growth of guys like Broderick Jones? Did that hurt guys like Dan Moore Jr.? Would they have been better if the schematics were a little bit better? I think it's a little bit of both is the answer. I think some of that's their play and some of that's the schematics. So I think a lot of that contributed. But if you're going to be a solid football team in the NFL, you got to cover all the bases, man. You got to be balanced. You got to cover all the bases, and you can't leave any stone unturned. And you can't be afraid to be different. You can't be afraid to take risks. And I think that is something also, too, that the Steelers didn't do in 2024. And just throwing the moon ball every time you want to throw the ball, as everybody like to say, Russell Wilson's moon balls, which you get sick of hearing that. If that's your only thing that you do, you're lost. You're lost, my friends. You got to have some creativity in the run game, pre-snap motions, pre-snap movements. Oh, so important to create those mismatches, and I preach that oh so much. But yet when you're running 12, 13 personnel, you got a ton of tight ends. You're playing McCole Pruitt, 300 and some snaps or 300 snaps this season for what? You're putting Cordell Patterson in there and sitting guys like Jalen Warren and Najee Harris on the bench. What are you doing? What are you doing? I just think, again, you lacked the creativity, man. You lacked the usage of your talent. You didn't go out there and put those players in the proper position to win. And that's really what it boils down to, guys. And again, last night on the live stream, it was a fantastic conversation. Nick is a stat guy. He knew a lot of stats. I think I, myself, am a more of a emotions guy, a character guy. Stats I use them to drive some of the things that I talk about, but I feel like I give a little bit of a different perspective because I'm talking about character, I'm talking about will and fight and want to. I think that plays a big role. But again, all these pieces come into play, and I think the Steelers have just simply lost their way. And I think that starts with the Rooney family, and I think that trickles down throughout. You have Mike Tomlin, who's way too comfortable in his position. You have Art Rooney, who's sitting here watching this go on, but yet doesn't make any type of significant change and really kind of just has his hands off of it. You have guys like Mike Tomlin that know, hey, this is the way I do it. I'm stubborn. I'm an egomaniac. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to do anything different. We just got to execute better. That doesn't work, man. It doesn't work. You got to get back in the lab. You got to create different opportunities. You got to figure things out a little bit. And I feel like that's where it's stale. And again, last night we talked about on the show, people will flock. Players do like Mike Tomlin. Whether we like that or not, they do. But does that get players in the building? And after we talked about that last night, yeah, they can all say they want to play for Mike Tomlin and that they love Mike Tomlin. They think he's a great coach. But why did they have so much trouble bringing in maybe a big name wide receiver? You know, do these players really see what the Steelers are doing and understand that there will be limited opportunities for them because the schematics are so bad? It makes you wonder, you know, is Mike Tomlin's name big enough still that draws enough good talent into the building that it can make the Steelers competitive over this offseason to where they have to have a huge free agency period. They have to really set themselves up for the 2025 draft in a big, big way. They got to go out there and be very, very aggressive inside of free agency. Spend up until the max, my friends. They got to go out there and really give themselves the opportunity to simply pick best player available and get back into that Steeler way of drafting football players. I think that has to be the most important thing. So this year, looking forward into 2025, I think the Steelers have to have the best free agency period they have ever had in franchise history. I think that's how you right this ship. Because again, after our conversation last night, these things started to come into my head a little bit. Free agency has to be so important and highly valued to the Pittsburgh Steelers, more than anything this offseason. And then you can go into the draft with a comfortable feeling of, hey, we got this roster looking pretty good. Now we want to get players that are exciting, generational talent type players. We want to go out there and find guys of high character, high work ethic, guys that are going to fight each and every play. And really just go out there and not have a heavy burden of needing to pick certain positions. Have to. If there's a run on a certain position, you don't have to go out there and waste a ton of draft capital to move up to try to get a player that you desperately need. You don't want to be in that situation. You don't want to be in that situation. And I think that's where the Steelers got to make the biggest moves this year. Free agency has to be the most important thing that the Pittsburgh Steelers do this offseason. And they have to really dive in and really make some moves and be un-Steeler-like and spend a ton of money and really be aggressive because they're going to have the money. They're going to have the cap space. They're going to make a lot of room inside of that cap space, and they are going to have to spend it. And I understand they like to save a little bit to break glass in case of emergency, but maybe this year you spend up right into the dollar, man, and you figure out emergencies as they happen and not live in your fears and play in that way. But again, guys, I feel like they've had some successful drafts here, so definitely I think Omar Khan's capable. You got guys like Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, I think that were instrumental. Last year in free agency, I thought bringing in Deshaun Elliott, I talked about it over the summer when they made that move, that I thought it was going to be the best move of the offseason. I think it ended up being. I think everybody last night also thought that was their best free agency pickup, a guy only making $3 million a year. But I really love the way that Deshaun Elliott was able to play this year, and I thought that he was going to be a really good fit, and thank God he did end up being a really good fit. And I think that was the biggest home run hit of Omar Khan's career so far, in my opinion. That's just my eyes looking at this thing. I thought Patrick Queen had a rough year. I thought he had some great moments, but I thought he had a lot of down moments too. You're paying that guy a hefty bag also. But I think Patrick Queen will get better as he is in the system a little bit longer. But man, guys, it's hard for anybody in this defense to be really, really good. Why? Because the schematics suck. You're not really attacking this thing like a real professional defense. And it's bad, and that's got to change before you can really see growth from a ton of players, man. So you got to make some changes there. You're not going to see changes at the coaching position. You're not going to see at the head coaching position. You're not going to see changes at offensive or defensive coordinator. So those are the big ones. Maybe you see a guy like a Pat Meyer, but probably not because him and Tomlin are pretty tight. So I don't think you'll see that change, but all you can hope for as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan is that they come in with a little bit of a different perspective and maybe lose some of that ego that Mike Tomlin has brought into this building of he is right and that they just got to execute. His plan is the only right way, and that's the only thing that matters. So hopefully, fingers crossed, he changes, but I'm going to say that's highly unlikely. But looking forward into 2025, I know without seeing free agency, without seeing the draft, it's really hard to say how this team will do and what they will be able to do moving forward. But I think 2025 has to be the year of the setup. That's what I call this. I think 2025 has to be your year that you are setting up for something significant in 2026. I think that is what you do. With the available cap space you have, I think you're going to be able to tie a lot of players up, get a solid foundation built in that building to where, yes, you can win with a good to average quarterback. And maybe you start to have success with whoever you bring in at the quarterback position. But you've put yourself in a position to where in 2026 you can go out there and really take a big swing at things and really try to hit a home run and move up in the draft and really try to get that franchise quarterback to come in and have a good team already around them. And that's what I think this year has to be, a setup year. It may be a tough year, another status quo year. We might be sitting here this time next year with the same conversation, status quo, basic, vanilla, garbage. We may be sitting here, and that may be what the Steelers need. Maybe the Steelers need that 5 or 6 win season to maybe open Art Rooney's eyes to understand that maybe it's time to figure out how Mike Tomlin moves forward and the Steelers move forward also. Maybe that's the question. Maybe that's the way, or that's the answers. Maybe that's what happens. But as of right now, things are status quo. And again, all you can do is have your fingers crossed and hope and pray that Mike Tomlin is able to understand what has went on, what has transpired here over the last decade especially, and really say to himself and look in the mirror and say, guys, we got to change things up. We got to figure things out, and we really got to work on our schematics and really attack this thing at a professional level and not just so basic, plain, and vanilla like they have been. That's the real issue. So let me make sure I didn't miss anything here that I wanted to talk about. No, I think I covered about everything. So, yeah. We're going to be live tonight. These were notes I had made yesterday because I had 3 shows. I usually just freestyle everything, but I had to make a little bit of notes yesterday just so I had a little bit of stuff to go off of. I was doing 3 shows, so I had to have a couple things. But again, I wanted to just emphasize and piggyback off of the conversation last night and just really reiterate some points. And again, I'm not a stat driven, and I feel like last night that's what gave you a great perspective. I felt like you had stats. I feel like you had emotional variables at play and things of that nature, work ethic, character. And I think everything came together and gave you a good picture of what you're going to see and what you did see in 2024 and what you're going to see here in 2025. So I thought it was amazing. That's why I wanted to piggyback off of it here today. I'm going to try to do an afternoon blitz. We'll see. But we will for sure be on tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Steel City Live, only here on Mic Drop Sports. If you're not subscribed, I don't know what the hell you're waiting for, man. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Join the conversation here each and every single day. Also, I wanted to remind you guys, go over, support Brian, support Nick, the guys I did that show with last night. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on their channels and show them some love each and every day also. There's more than enough room for everybody. Just because we're all Steelers creators and we talk football, that doesn't mean that you don't support each other. And I really want you guys to go support them also and show them the same love that you show me each and every single day. It really helps people out and definitely creates just a big, giant community of having this great football conversation. So, yeah, it's definitely fun, man, and I appreciate it. So, again, thank you. That was that year kind of breakdown. So we've got that out of our system here. So now kind of moving forward here on the channel, we'll be really focusing on the draft, the Super Bowl that's coming up here, and really starting to attack free agency. And again, really breaking down players from the Senior Bowl, breaking down players that are going to be involved in this draft process in 2025. And again, this is the year of the setup for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if they do this right and they attack things right and do the things that I think many of us think are the proper things to do, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are in a good position. They just have to seize the moment and not allow it to pass them by. So until tonight, guys, I'm Jason. This is Mike Drop Sports. See you on the next one, my friends. Peace.